Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got a very exciting treat for you. We've got a few Star Wars updates, and we're gonna focus on the Ahsoka show, in particular an article titled The Force Re-Awakens, and we're gonna be discussing how the Ahsoka show and Dave Filoni's future plans are essentially acting as a sequel trilogy before the sequels further down the timeline. But before we dive into any of that, Ming-Na has discussed what she wants to see in the Book of Boba Fett Season 2. At this stage, you guys know I would love to see more Boba content, and Season 2 would be amazing. There is so much potential after the first, and now the Fennec Shand actress has said she wants to feature in more. When asked about what she wants for a Season 2, she said, you know, he's this Lord of Tatooine, and he's managing to have some control, but he was trying to do it one way, and I'm not sure how effective it was. He was trying to have a greater honor system, and I would love to see that he turns back to a bit more like what Boba Fett was, in also maintaining justice, accomplishing what he needs to, and then having a lot of fun battle scenes. So just like so many other Star Wars fans, Ming-Na also wants to see Boba back to his old ways. And I really want to see more of Fennec as well. I want to learn more about her backstory. Maybe she'll also feature in the Bad Batch Season 3, but overall she's a badass character. And so now my dear friends, I asked you guys in the community tab how you're feeling about Disney Star Wars at this current moment, and I noticed people are not as positive as they used to be. There is a sentiment amongst a good portion that Lucasfilm is not delivering what they could be with Star Wars. The franchise is not living up to its potential, and so for a lot of people, it's somewhat positive. Not all the way there, but somewhat. Star Wars cannot always please everyone, but the Ahsoka show is a bit different to Kenobi and the others because this is solely Dave Filoni's vision. And this brings me on to the subject of today's video. For many, the Ahsoka show is a sort of new dawn for Disney Star Wars. The promise of Grand Admiral Thrawn, what that's going to bring in terms of the Mandalorian movie, the Mandalorian Season 4, it's truly generated some real excitement in the fandom, and I do think this comes with a lot of hope. Some are saying this could be the sequel trilogy we never got, the years following Return of the Jedi, that we know will eventually lead to The Force Awakens, but not just yet. There is still so much time period to explore. Well, SFX magazine have picked up on this, and in their latest issue, they have a very cool segment for the Ahsoka show, and they titled it The Force Re-Awakens. When you consider the time gap between Episode 6 and Episode 7, we're talking about 3 decades, 30 years, which is being explored now in The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka show, and Skeleton Crew. But Star Wars Ahsoka in particular has generated a lot of hype because of how beloved she is as a character, and we're finally going to see where Dave Filoni's vision for the character after Rebels, The Mandalorian Season 2 and Book of Boba Fett is going to take us. We're also getting answers to what Thrawn's been up to since separating from Ezra in The New Beyond. The show promises a story that ties into Dave Filoni's climactic Heir to the Empire film in 2026, and they're upping the ante, and the stakes feel more real and more elevated than ever before in this time period of the galaxy. Mando 1 to 3 and the Book of Boba Fett were just setting up what's to come. That was just the start. The true galactic threat is inbound, and the roles of our heroes, our favourite characters, are about to change and become way more significant. That's why the importance of the restoration of Mandalore cannot be overstated. That planet needs to be united for the danger that's abound. Another massive appeal of the Ahsoka show is a return to focus on the Force, lightsabers, Force ghosts, not to mention rumours of flashbacks to Mustafar, where Ahsoka witnesses what happened between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. And even the character of Ahsoka herself is such a mystery within the concept of the Force, concerning what it means to be the embodiment of the daughter, the whole symbolic nature of Morai, Ahsoka the White, and the implications that might have on her future and the future of the galaxy at large, the world between worlds, contacting Rey later in the Rise of Skywalker, and so much more. So this title is very appropriate. The Force Re-Awakens. It's like The Force Awakens, but this is going to be a very different type of sequel than the sequel trilogy. And I don't just mean in terms of time period, this is obviously way earlier. I'm talking about the themes. It's going to be more mystical and more fantastical. And more than anything, the political landscape is very different, because by the time of The Force Awakens, the First Order's risen out of the ashes of the Remnant. The Remnant at this time is working very hard. We saw the Shadow Council in Mandalorian, and each one has their own goals. Meanwhile, the New Republic and Mon Mothma struggle. But the political landscape at this time is interesting because it intertwines with Ahsoka and Ezra Bridger, because Force users are scarce. In the same way Moff Gideon never had the Force but wanted it for a clone army, Thrawn might also want midichlorians for his own army, which we know is made up of Night Sisters who themselves use the dark side of the Force, a dark kind of magic. So it's a different kind of thing to later in the timeline when Snoke, the Supreme leader does have the Force. The big bad of this point in the timeline is not a Force user, but he's more dangerous, and concerning the Imperial Remnant, they have a big plan in place. The Shadow Council is working hard. We have Project Necromancer by Hux' dad, we have Pelaeon working on Thrawn's fleet with Morgan Elsbeth, and others, all with the hopes of bringing back the Empire, but Thrawn is ahead of all of that. And I did see a theory that these other Shadow Council members are based on very specific ones from the expanded universe. For example, someone like Zinj, who after the Battle of Endor tried to build his own empire. He assembled his own military, his own fleet, and even recruited some of the Emperor's royal guards. He instantly went from Admiral to Warlord. He pillaged and plundered many worlds, but unlike Grand Admiral Thrawn, he was not a good strategist. Eventually it was Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon who took him down, who destroyed his dreadnought. And others from the council stole his fleet, notably Pterodok. So they were all hyenas, trying to get the scraps and profiteering from the demise of others, even fellow council members. They were all in it for themselves. They're trying to tell this overarching story and trying to connect some of the dots. The sequel trilogy parallels are already in place, but they're going to do something very different with Ahsoka. Favreau said he's not going to take the easy route. He wants to leave us guessing, which is a big reason he didn't include Snoke in Mando Season 3. Fans thought that was where Moff Gideon's project was leading, but it turns out he was just trying to clone himself. But what I'm trying to say is, they didn't go the Snoke route just yet. That might be coming in a future season, but for now, there's a lot more to build up. And another very interesting thing about this parallel, if you even want to make it in the first place, is how a lot of Star Wars fans see Ahsoka as the optimal female protagonist. This is something Rosario Dawson, and also Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Hera Syndulla, mentioned. Ahsoka was always a very intriguing character, even though a lot of fans really didn't like her the first time they met her. But over the seasons of the Clone Wars and across her appearances in the Star Wars franchise, Dave Filoni made her growth and development very intriguing. She started out as an impulsive Togruta Padawan, but matures and gains a deeper understanding of the Force and the world around her, even when she left the Jedi Order. She's a very relatable character, and that's one of the best parts of the way she's written. We see her experience very human emotions like fear, anger and doubt, and struggles with difficult decisions and complex moral dilemmas, and she didn't appear on our screens fully developed. That came with time and experience in the Clone Wars and Rebels, and fans grew with her. And to those fans who didn't like The Force Awakens, Rey was the opposite of all of that. And I'm just saying this as an opinion that some Star Wars fans hold. I'm not saying it's the objective truth. But these are some of the reasons Ahsoka is so popular. Now, as for the Ahsoka article itself in SFX magazine, it's a lot of the stuff we already know. They talk about the heroes, the villains, Baylan Shin, and it's nice they acknowledge and talk about Ashley Eckstein as the legacy of Ahsoka in animation. Here is what Rosario Dawson, who plays the character in live action, said. "I feel really blessed to have such volumes of history to reflect back on. Ashley, bringing this character from a teenager up until the present, did such a remarkable job in developing her. She was hot-headed, she was still stubborn, but the complexity that she brought to it and the nuances was something to build from. When I think about this show, and I think of this journey for Ahsoka, it feels like I have actual visual memories to reflect upon. It's incredible, and I have Dave Filoni on set every day to ask many questions to. It's really such a remarkable space, and as a fan, it's been really incredible to be part of The Mandalorian and Boba, but to have this show as a continuation of that journey, that adventure we've seen her on, has just been exceptional, and I'm so excited for all of you to see where she is now." Some really exciting and awesome stuff from Rosario. And speaking about Thrawn, she tells us to not underestimate him, calling him a formidable opponent. Now, in other Ahsoka news, Disney confirmed in a press release that Ahsoka's going to release on August 31st, which is a Thursday. Many of us assumed this is just a placeholder because the show's release on Wednesdays. Well, it turns out Disney removed the release date from the Disney Movie Insiders page, and it's still yet to be confirmed when Ahsoka's going to release, but it's going to be sometime in August 2023. So please share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and if you want access to more videos you can't find here on YouTube, then click the link down there in the description. But until the next one, my dear friends, may the Force be with you always.